Hey, you guys. My name's Gary. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And, um, one of the things, I make these videos to help people maybe get sober or find their path. Everybody does a little bit differently. I happen to do mine through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. There's a couple things I want to talk about today. I had a good day. I just walked in the door and I was on the way home, and I talked to a guy, really good friend of mine with 30 years of sobriety, and we were talking about God. And as a lot of you guys know, I'm dealing with the loss of my son. It's been 31 days, I believe, today, since he died from an accidental fentanyl overdose. His name was Brandon. And so at lunch today, I turn on Russell Brand. He's an actor. I don't know what he's been in or anything like that. I've seen some of his stuff on YouTube, and I think he gets political and stuff like that. But something crossed my YouTube thing, and it was Russell Brand on grieving or grief, and he was talking about some deep stuff about, now that we're living a spiritual way of life and we've lost somebody, that basically that relationship has changed. And it's the way I believe also, but he just articulated it so well. And so I was listening to that, and then I was talking to my friend. What Russell Brand was saying was, they've crossed over into another dimension, basically, that we're not familiar with. We're used to touching and feeling and seeing and sitting face to face and communicating via telephone and all that stuff. But now we have a different way of communication, and it's in the spiritual realm. Basically, it's not this stuff, this eye contact and face to face or on video, or we can't. There's that world we don't know about. They've shifted into another dimension or world that we might even be part of, but we don't know how to communicate with that yet. So we're limited to what we can do. The best that we can do is maybe meditation and thinking about the person, and maybe, I don't know, for me, I had some signs right off the bat when my son passed away that I don't know if I'm going to share them, but my son let me know he was okay, and he did it in a real earthly kind of way, So I'm going to leave it at that. But so I've always been a deep thinker, and I think about all this stuff, and I like to think of myself as a spiritual learner, and somebody who seeks, and I've read the Tao Te Ching, which I love. I grew up in Catholic school and read the Bible, and I find goodness in all of that stuff. And, my conception of my higher power is still evolving, okay? And I think that's okay, because I'm on a spiritual path. I'm on a spiritual journey. And I can only speak for myself, okay? And hopefully I didn't botch Russell Brand's deal, what he was trying to communicate about. But so I was talking about this stuff, and I just wrote a couple things. Oh, okay, so I was talking to my buddy Scott about, we have, when somebody passes away that we love, right? It's like we've got a few different alternatives that we could do, right? A lot of us, and I wanted to do this too, is, just kind of like forget about it happened. Well, I never wanted to do that with my son's passing. I never wanted to just forget about it. But I've had people in my life that, I've cared for and they've passed away, and I've just gone, walk away from it and go, I can't think about that or deal with that right now. It's just too painful, right? Because it is painful to deal with. So we could stuff it, deep down inside ourselves and, hope it never sees the light of day type thing and kind of forget about it. Or we can deal with it in a way like, oh, I should have done this different. I should have done that different, and really take the wood to ourselves. And like I could beat the shit out of myself with this thing. And I've done it a few times, but I don't stay in it very long because I am on a spiritual path, not on a beating the shit out of Gary path. I got off that path 5 months ago. I don't want to do any more damage to myself, and I think I've been through enough. I don't need to beat the shit out of myself and say, oh, look what you did. You're such a bad guy and you're a bad father. So there's that path I could take, or there's the spiritual path. And to me, the spiritual path is a painful one because it involves talking about this stuff. It involves prayer and meditation around this stuff, thinking about my son, thinking about what a wonderful kid he was, dealing with those feelings that I'm not going to see him again. All of that stuff is painful, but I think that's the healthy way to do it. Doing it with my God and with my pain, my own pain, and missing him and just missing that beautiful spirit that he was. And even talking about good times and even dealing with some of the bad moments, I had, because I got to recognize those, because I don't want to make those same mistakes. I have 2 other children, and I've got a whole life to lead, hopefully, however long God wants me to stay on the planet, I want to do it constructively. So that spiritual life is painful. And in order for me to get to this spiritual life that I lead, and I do it through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, it involved a lot of pain. And my friend had brought up, and I hope I don't botch this, but he says, I don't know anybody who got to live a spiritual life without dealing with a great bit of pain, in their life. That's your way to a spiritual life. And he, I don't know. I think that's correct. It does involve a lot of pain. It did. Let's just talk about me. So my spiritual life involved a lot of pain. Just getting to that, just getting to that path, and then walking it. So walking a spiritual path, a lot of times it involves loneliness. I'm just going to throw examples out there. I'm not saying that this always happens to me or anything like that, but it involves loneliness. It involves not trying to get in there and make results happen, but just sitting back and praying and allowing the world to kind of work its way out. I don't need to get in there and mix it up and make things happen. I need to just, a lot of times, just be, if that makes any sense. And just like my human life, I breathe in air, my heart's beating, all these things are functioning, right? And I'm not thinking about one thing. It's just happening on its own. So why can't I just let everybody else's life happen on its own? Let my life mature on its own without getting involved and trying to turn all these screws and make it happen my way. And I've got to get to the top financially faster, and I've got to drive this kind of car, or I've got to get this pair of new cowboy boots, and I won't pay this bill because I want to look good and get this kind of clothing or something like that. All those little examples, or being in a relationship. I'm going to make this person be like this because it works better for me, and I'm going to enforce my will on it. And, it's painful to back off of all that stuff and allow God, because it takes time, but when I seemed So if I'm living in this spiritual realm, which I don't always do perfectly when I share about it on my videos, you know, I get in the only problem, my biggest problem is me, I get in the way. But if I can allow the world to just kind of do what it's supposed to do, and just, if there's a situation, hey, is there anything you need? How can I help you? Instead of going, it needs to be done like this. You got to do this, But but now that I'm on a different way of living, that shit doesn't work for me anymore. It makes me fucked up inside. It makes me want to fucking drink. So I'd rather suffer this spiritual pain and letting God do his work and just saying, how can I be useful today? And I'm going to stay out of, trying to run everybody else's life. I can't even run my own, So hopefully that makes sense, and what else did the love for my son, right? So I was talking to my friend Scott on this grief stuff. That love for my son will never go away. It will always be there. And I never want it to go away. And it's a beautiful thing, that love. When you have a child, you instantly love something more than yourself. That's the best way I can explain it. I never knew I was capable of that depth of love as when my children were born. And I remember the day all three of my sons were born. And I remember the day Brandon was born. And I could tell you stories all day about my son, Brandon. But that's for a different time. I want to get my message across in a short period of time on these videos. Otherwise, they don't get seen. So, remember, you guys, the 5-day God challenge. What else happened today real quick? Just going through stuff at work. And, as I'm allowing people to be themselves, I'm seeing more about people. And I got a boss right now that I liked him from day one, but I thought, maybe this guy's going to be threatened or something, because that happens, when you, like the next guy under, I got hired and I'm like the guy under him, and, I had a lot of experience like he does. He's got, we've got 30 some years in the glass business, and I didn't want him to be threatened, and he never was. He knew his position, and he wasn't an asshole about anything. He's always just, he probably thought, like, who is this fucking guy, he's not Superman. But I wanted to be Superman right away, because I wanted to show everybody, hey, I'm here to help you, and I know this, and this. But now that we're getting to know each other and stuff like that, I'm getting to see how he thinks and operates. And he's just, we don't talk too much about this stuff, the spiritual life and personal shit and stuff like that. But I know when I was going through stuff with my son, this was the only guy in the company that we had a moment together, and he said, God first, then family, and then everything else goes below that. And I agree with that, because a guy like me, I can't, my family's, you guys hear me talk about my family, they're everything to me. But a guy like me needs God in his life, and I need to live for God and for what I believe that he wants for me. And that way I could be useful to my family. Otherwise, I'm not useful. If I put my family first, and, they often, like my boys I'll piss them off, like I was pissing them off last night. We all hung out, and, they were getting irritated with me with something with the internet, and it was something silly, but they were, and I can walk away and get my feelings hurt, and then it's like, poor me. And then if I've made my family more important than my God, So I've made my family my God. They, you know, I've made them control the way I can feel. And I can't do that, man. I can't allow, you know, somebody getting upset with me to change the way I feel about me. You know what I mean? I have to just be me, and however it is, and, you know, try to learn from my mistakes if I'm making mistakes. And it was all good. I mean, we had a good time last night. There was nothing wrong. It was just, I was getting on their nerves because I don't understand fucking internet at all. We were talking about, it's not worth going into, but, because it was just so silly. But I got to see my grandson last night. I got to hold him. And what a special thing that was. Because, right, you know, it made me really sad because my middle son, Brandon, never got to meet my grandson, his nephew. So that made me sad. But I thought about how, you know, one of our family members left this world and moved on to a spiritual world, and another one came in. And what a beautiful thing that is. So, I'm sorry. You know, that's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to wrap it up with that, you guys. I'm sorry to end it like this, but remember the 5-day God challenge, okay? If you're having trouble with alcohol and drugs like I have for many years, and you're trying to get clean, get sober, if you want to live a better life, and maybe you thought God forgot about you, or you just don't believe in God, believe that I believe, and my life is just exploding with greatness right now. Like, great things are happening, and I'm not talking about external finances and stuff like that. That stuff will come. You know, just recently got back on board with Alcoholics Anonymous and getting sober. But if you believe, or even just pretend to believe, and do a 5-day God challenge, get on your knees in the morning and ask God to help you through the day. Help me stay sober. Help me get through the day. However limited your praying is, you know, mine can be very limited. You know, sometimes I'm like, God, help me not be an asshole today, and just, you know, sometimes it's the best I can do. Help me stay sober, and that's it. And, you know, and then at night, if you were sober through that day, just say, God, thank you, and see how it works out for you. And then ask God, you know, hey, God, I'm having a hard time believing in you. Could you please reveal yourself to me, you know, in the next 5 days? And then see what happens. I think little miraculous things will happen in your life if you do that. And just be aware. Be aware you're living in the spiritual realm for 5 days. Okay? I'll see you guys probably tomorrow. Thank you.